Welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. Real talk from four pastors with over 200 years of ministry experience.
Hey, welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. This is a special edition because we're joined with Steve and Steve's wife, Lynn. And Lynn, would you just tell us a couple things about you?
Oh, gee. Well, I've been married to this guy almost 50 years. We've been partners in ministry and in every other way.
Hmm.
I like coffee. I like puppy dogs.
And people.
I don't like snakes.
You don't
Um,
like snakes.
no
And
snakes.
and you the two
Well,
of you just celebrated the 50th anniversary that Steve asked you to marry him. Uh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
tell him about the story of where you ate your dinner then and ate your dinner this year.
Well, I grew up in a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And so Steve proposed to me on a ski hill where there was a lot of snow, and that was fabulous. And then he was going to take me for a nice dinner. So we went driving around, but it's such a small town that on Monday nights, no restaurants are open. And so that was kind of crazy. We
Mhm.
finally found a takeout Kentucky Fried Chicken attached to a hotel. And so we got takeout and we ate it in the car, but it didn't matter
Mhm.
because I was just thrilled to have a ring on my finger and so happy that he had married me. Anyway, so for the 50th celebration of our engagement, he took me to KFC.
But we ate inside.
We ate inside while it was hailing outside, but it wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be.
As that first one,
What's the
nothing can
memory
match
with it?
that. Steve
Yeah,
and Lynn have had one of the best marriages I have ever seen. And the thick and thin of life, all the circumstances, they've been a true partnership. And Steve has always been creative. He's always had a message to share. He's done all kinds of hobbies. He's done them all really well. And recently, he's started to write and self-publish some books, and Lynn and he are publishing them together. Could you just tell us about how that came about and how that fulfills a need in you and also the desire you have for publishing those books?
Well, we were given a wonderful gift um, 2 years ago from my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, who's in her 20s. And it's called storyworth.com. And with that gift at Christmas, she would send me a question each week that I would have to write, and she could probe any subject, and I would have to write it. And so, in one way, it was answering the questions that maybe she would want to have known after I died,
mhm.
and that they would be after with Storyworth. After it's completed, you get a hardcover book of it. And so as I was writing these, she would ask me something. I would write about 2,000 words. And then once all that was put together, then you can do layouts. And so Lynn went through an archive of all of our photos and found photos to put in that were relevant. And then other photos that we had put at the very end. And one of the things that I found is that much like sermon writing, my mind works in kind of a linear way, and I'm able to get information down quickly on
Very
paper,
quickly.
but it's not necessarily grammatically correct. There are spelling errors, all kinds of things. My brain works faster than my fingers can type. So I would just have Lynn review it, and Lynn has a master's in reading besides an elementary ed degree and taught first and fourth grade. And so it's like having your own personal editor, but even beyond that, because she has such content that she can add and increase. Anyway, that book was put together, and then we bought additional copies of it so that each of the siblings could have one. And each of the family members that we have an extended family that includes some not legally adopted, but in every other way, sons, which mean a great deal to us, so that they could read the questions that our granddaughter asked. And then we made sure that there were extra copies for our youngest grandchildren.
So,
And
Lynn,
the
do you enjoy the editing process?
no,
Okay.
to be honest,
You edit all the time, though, right?
I edit all the time, whether it's in church for the slides or whatever.
She sees every problem.
I do not like mistakes, and so that way I'm kind of a perfectionist. And I think I had really good schooling in elementary school. And so I see those things. It's not my passion at all to edit, but I feel like Steve's ideas are so great and his content is so great that I can really help him. I can be a team with him again in this way by editing with him.
And you add a lot of content.
Yeah,
Great student.
I really enjoy adding to, but his creative mind sets the framework.
Oh, yeah. That what's a wonderful partnership. I'm sure a lot of that is in love, but it has to be fun to read your husband's material. And you kind of know, you know, some of what he's going to say, but there's that unique voice that is his when he's writing.
That's right. And we probably go over it 20 times. So I probably read that content 20 times. So it really gets into my head as well. And so it is really fun. And I'm so proud of him and what he's accomplished.
Right.
Well,
But
okay,
beyond
Steve.
editing,
Oh,
she adds a lot of content.
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah. You've made that clear, and I agree. I agree. Tell us the other books that you've written since that. I mean, that first one, you know, a number of families maybe watching have done something like that, but that didn't stop you from writing another set of books. Tell us about those books.
Well, first, we have to do a commercial for Storyworth because they're giving me $1,000 for
No,
plugging this.
they aren't.
Actually, that is a wonderful gift.
It is.
Ask those questions.
Yeah.
A few years ago, well, I guess it's longer ago than that, I had written a marriage um, inventory computer program that assessed marriages. Um, there are other products like Prepare and Enrich, products like that, but I wanted to focus in on certain areas, and so I wrote a companion book for that. That was just called Live Happily Ever After, and that was because we had livehappilyeverafter.com, and it basically talks about all of the mistakes that I made, the foolish things that I did in our relationship, and how Lynn was gracious. And we're actually going to be using that book in a study at our son's church in June, where there'll probably be 50 people and they'll each have a book. And then we're going to go through one chapter at a time it would be immediately after the church service. And so it should be a lot of fun.
Give me a
Uh,
snapshot on the other books you've written.
well, we wrote a book and
Yeah, show it off.
it's called Beyond the Walls. And this is a pretty thick book, but what it recorded is the movement that you started in church planting, and which was with Converge. Lynn and I were fortunate enough to watch it up close and personal. And I felt after 40 years, and you just celebrated your 50th wedding anniversary and 50 years of ministry, I really wanted to record as many of the thoughts as I could. And so this was more of a history book, and I wanted to honor the hundreds of people that made this possible. And your original vision was to start 10 churches in 10 years. And the president of Converge, Pastor John Jenkins, announced at your celebration, how many?
Oh, over 900. But what I need is a snapshot on each book. So go to the next book. Show us
Okay. There's one called When Fear Meets Faith, and our son, oldest son, struggled with addiction from 14 until 27, and he died. And that put us into an emotionally unbelievable place. And for the most part, we kept it to ourselves. Family, I think, would have done anything. You were very involved, Paul, but I don't even know if you understood the depth of what that whole thing was like. I don't know if anybody can, but it now is 20 years later. And so in that book, we detailed how did we climb out of that from fear to faith. As our faith grew more, we had hope. After we had hope, then we had peace. And after peace, we rest in joy now. And so it's really for, I think, anybody who's gone through a severe anxiety time. And I think that you said that your daughter was reading it out loud,
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
at our Easter celebration, she was reading different quotes, and Darla's read it. She's read all your books. I've read many. I've read parts of each, but she thinks it's the most important book you've written. And my wife Darla, and I think what's the line you use often in there? That is it that hope is just a stone's throw away? Is
Yeah, that's actually right out of Luke 20. It said that Jesus, after when he went into the garden and he asked to pray with the um,
Disciples.
with the disciples, it says he was just a stone's throw away.
one of the things that I think you do so well in the books, Steve, and I think Lynn would agree with this, is you come up with wonderful, almost poetic lines that um, that frame the teaching and writing and thoughts. And the honesty you both share in that book is just amazing. Now you've got to go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, all of our books we try to make personal because every one of them have a huge impact on us. I think when Fear Makes Faith meets faith, it is extremely personal.
Raw.
Yeah, it is raw. And I had a very hard time reliving that. I went through all my journals on that. I did, I went through the list of people who were at his funeral. I looked at so many things because I wanted people to know truly my heart. And we do that on every book, and we learn so much not only about each other, but we learn so much about God through this whole process. And the last book now that we are working on now on grace has really been,
It's been like a 3-month deep dive.
yeah, a deep dive on grace and the book of
And
Romans.
let me share one story about that. Um, when you study grace, and then there's that story that Jesus told about the owner that had two people who owed him money. One owed him, I can't remember how many talents, but it equals $8 billion. And the other owed the other man $12,000. And the story is how the owner represents the father. He ended up forgiving the person who owed this incredible sum of money. And this was almost like a tsunami for me, reading the books, studying commentaries, using logos, all of every tool. I wanted to learn as much as I could. And what happened during the process is our father had lots and lots of problems. He was an alcoholic and he struggled in many ways. And each of my siblings have carried it in a different way. With me, it just has never left me. And the result of going through the study and understanding the proportional difference, 8 billion to 12,000, I forgave him,
Oh, wow.
which
That's
That
really
is
big.
that is a huge, huge thing. So, I mean, when we write, it's not only like we want our family to experience it, and maybe a few other people will read it. But truly, it impacts, especially this Grace book. It really has impacted us on such a deep spiritual level when you try to fathom the
The
great,
enormity of
yeah, great.
Athens.
And what is your tagline there? Abounding.
Oh, it
It's
it's
super.
yeah, it's the Greek word that talks about the abundance of God's grace, and there isn't an English equivalent. It's kind of like beyond, beyond, beyond. And that, of course, would be synonymous with the 8 billion versus the 12,000. And all of that hit me so hard that I looked at any lack of forgiveness that I had. Um, that how could I hold on to something like that?
When do you think that book will be ready for publishing?
Lynn is editing it now, but we've been working on it for 3 months. You gave me some great resources and talked to me. I take notes from everybody. So one of the things in the introduction, I mentioned that none of this really comes from us. It's a product of all of these scholars and other people who have allowed us to deep dive, and that includes the book that you suggested that I read, and others. And so, I think that all of that has been really good.
Do you have
But
an idea when it will be published?
um, it could be
6
published
months? Maybe
maybe
6 months?
in a month. The
Oh, in a
manuscript,
month. Okay. Hey, I just want, because if people are listening and you're kind of going, yeah, I have trouble forgiving, or I don't know that I understand grace, look for that book. Where are these books available?
well, they're on Amazon, and if you search for Stephen Lynn Johnson, but that's a common name. That the Grace book is called Grace with a period.
Okay, grace with a period.
Not grace with a period,
No,
but grace with a
a
period.
big period,
Yeah.
because that there is nothing more than that.
And we'll try to put links in this program too, but they're all published with
Yeah,
Amazon.
yeah. There's
And
one on discipleship called The Road Home, and then for the 2028 Olympics, I was asked if I could come up with something that would be a gentle evangelistic experience, and that's just called Waldo.
Kind of
so
But
discovering
so
yourself.
Steve is working what, 10, 12 hours a day writing?
Yes,
And
10, 12
and
hours a day. He is so intense. It's almost like, well, he mentioned his mind works so fast, faster than his fingers, faster than I can keep up with. He usually doesn't eat. He usually doesn't sleep well. And it's like the Holy Spirit is pouring words into him.
I think it's for our benefit, not
Oh,
necessarily for a reader.
right.
But
Yeah.
assembling it
what would
is,
be for both?
yeah, but assembling it just helps me to understand it. Now, did you want a real short explanation of how easy it is
Oh
to
yeah. Now
actually?
what I just want to, so Lynn's working along editing, and then do you do some rewriting too at that time, Steve, or is Lynn mainly doing that?
Here's a way of thinking about how you write a book. You begin by creating, it's called the spine, which is um, the core principle, and you layer knowledge upon knowledge upon knowledge all the way to the top. And that is just information that you've studied, something that you're passionate about, and you want it to reach the crescendo at the top. And then, like a candy cane, you start wrapping the red around it, and you're going through every chapter in the book, just like it would be multiple times, and so that you're able to refine it. And
Yeah. Or when you think of a maypole,
that's a better.
you've got the spine, and then the ribbons keep adding, adding, adding. And so that's why we have to go over it so many times. There may be a better choice of a word. There may
Yeah.
be a better illustration. There may be
New
just
insights.
yeah, new insights that we get, and we just go layer upon layer, and that's why it takes so long.
Trying to find the right word, because oftentimes when you're writing, you have enough of a pause that you can go back and say, is there a stronger word that I hardly ever use
Hmm.
that if I rewrite the sentence, it ups the power level or and so thesauruses and other you can do that on Word where you can search for another word. We really are picky that way, and Lynn is so good with that. And, and
Steve, you mentioned that you picked a particular style that you like to write in, and you listed 4 or 5 styles. Could you just explain that to people?
well, when you open a book, there's like a cookbook. I'm just using, well, it's actually very much like um, when you took interpreting the Bible and you end up seeing the different genres of literature that are in the Bible. So there's a whole bunch. The the two that I like to use because I've written poetry, and I that kind of moved my heart, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's called lyrical, and then narrative is storytelling. So it's storytelling with pauses with the lyrical part to hopefully get down deeper into the soul.
So you
And
kind of write in a lyrical poetic style or a lyrical narrative
mm,
style.
I would say,
And there are a lot of pauses, like even the gaps of white among the black. That's where we really want the reader to stop and not just keep going, but stop and think and have revelations for themselves.
Yeah,
there
I
was a
think that's effective. I think it's surprising because so many people or publishers when they publish books, they want to make it less expensive, so they don't want blank spaces. And you really have a lot of lines in your books that hit home. Well, I'm going to pivot now because I want you to tell people how do you self-publish that someone feels like they have a book in them. What do they have to do? How much is it going to cost them?
um, well, they have to write a manuscript. If they don't have an editor, which I have, who knows my heart and knows my voice, then you can either hire an editor. There's a lot of places that do that. And I think that there are some AI programs, but I'm not familiar with those. So you have to come up with a manuscript. To publish a book, it needs to have 100 pages with Kindle Direct Publishing. And so you can accomplish that. I personally like to read books that are 12-point fonts. You just mentioned that publishers don't like to do that, but we publish our book at a level so that we don't get any royalty. And so it's as low as you can possibly, they won't allow us to go any lower. And so I just make the 12-point font so it's easy for people to read. And and you take your manuscript, you can go to Kindle, and then you can have it put into a Kindle Direct Publishing. Most of the time, it's 6 by 9 inch PDF, which meets the requirements to be an insert into their book. And then there's a cover making program that they have. And so if you have a cover that you especially like, I had some photos, so you can upload a photo and you can either put black space around it or you can use whatever creativity you want. Otherwise, it will literally produce a cover for you. You fill in the back, which is a little information about the book. And then you just you just push go, and then it takes about up to 72 hours for their program to check to see if everything is formatted in a correct way so that it fits within the parameters of the printed space and that the cover is the right size. And then it just goes online unless you
And
want it
and
to.
is there a fee to do that?
No, no fee.
no fee. And then how does it, so people could read it as a Kindle read
Oh, that's
or
just
have
it's
one.
one that's just one other step. And after you've published a hardcover and a paperback, or you can just do paperback, you can do whatever you want. It automatically asks you, do you want to do a Kindle? And you just push some buttons and you have a Kindle. And then it goes through the same process of asking you how much you want. And
The price, you mean?
yeah, and so because we're retired and we don't really want anything for it, it just makes it a whole lot easier. Then people can buy it, and because of the Amazon Prime, you can ship it. And and then the other option is that as the author, you can buy author copies, which is just for what they charge to print them and the postage to get them to you. But actually, it's cheaper for us when we send somebody a book to just pay retail, and because of the shipping being
The shipping
included.
is paid for.
But it really is a nice thing. It produces a nice looking um, book where you end up with an opportunity to kind of have what you've studied and the memories that brought that book into being. And so I would just encourage people to if you have a heart for that, you know, I don't know if anything that we've ever written would ever be published by um, a regular publishing house. That's not important to me because I can set the price so low and I can give them out. It's like this evangelistic book. Um, we will have thousands of them. That will be about $3 a piece. That will be handed out at the 2028 Olympics, and they wanted something more than a tract. And so this kind of fools people a little bit into self-discovery. But the theme of the book is self-discovery is when you discover yourself in Christ. I don't want to make it sound like we're pulling something over them, but we're helping them to find that reality.
Oh, absolutely. It's wonderful that there's such a clear way to publish a book now. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with the book Theo of Golden. Have you seen that book?
No.
You should definitely read it. Oprah got her hands on it and recommended it, and it became from a self-published book by someone who's about our age to a New York Times bestseller. So I
Wow.
think we're going to see more and more books like that. And I definitely think your books could be in that kind of category. I'd encourage you to keep writing books that where you look and you go, what is a pastoral theme that people need? Some honesty. And for any of you watching, if you know anyone who's gone through a time of suffering or despair or challenge, their book on and it's from fear to faith.
Fear meets faith.
Fear meets faith. It's
And
just exceptional. It's just there are times where you read it and you're just stopped by what they've said, but it so clearly points to ways to get help personally and deal with things. So that all the books are great, but that's one that just would have a broad reach that could help all kinds of people. Well, Stephen Lynn, thank you for your side hustle. Thank you for your creativity.
your
I've
money
known
on
Steve my
it.
whole life, or I guess 10 months into my life, and he's always been someone who's extremely creative, and this might be the best use of your creativity.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
He's great.
well, thank you guys for listening
You bet.
to Friends, Life, and Ministry. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening or watching. We would love to hear your questions.